Hello friends! Today we are gonna create a portfolio website using animated React components and 3D objects. Let's refresh the page and see the animations. Here we have a typing animation and this 3D background. For this project, we'll be using snap scrolling. So when I scroll down, it's gonna snap to the next section. You can see the transitions and the counter animations. And here we have a 3D object. You'll learn how to add 3D models to your React applications and how to use lights, perspective, and interactivity. And you'll see how easy it is to customize 3D objects with your own images. And the best thing is, you don't have to know anything about 3D design. And after that, we'll have the portfolio section. We'll create this beautiful animation and this progress circle. When I scroll down or up, it's gonna animate the progress. Finally, we'll create this contact section and you'll learn how to animate SVGs using motion animations. And this form is functional. If someone writes a message and sends it, you'll receive that message as an email. And this website is responsive. We'll create different breakpoints for each screen type and change the style of the items. After creating our website, we'll deploy it using Hostinger. It's the hosting sponsor of the channel and I use it for all my projects, and now there is the biggest discount of the year on all hosting and server plans just special for Black Friday. For this project, we'll be using a hosting plan. Using the business hosting, you can deploy 100 websites, and you'll have a really generous storage, free SSL, and a free domain. But if you have full stack applications, you can also consider the VPS plans and deploy all your projects on a single server. And don't forget, if you use the link in the description and the Lama Dev coupon code here, you'll get an extra discount. After purchasing, you are ready to claim your free domain. Let's choose a domain and claim. And after that, you are ready to set up your hosting. We'll create an empty website, use your domain, and choose a location. It's gonna take a while, and after that, you'll see your H panel. In this panel, you can manage your domain, hosting, database, and backups, and you can deploy your websites using the file manager. So if you are ready, let's create our website and deploy it here. Okay, I created here my project folder, and inside this folder, let's install our React application. To do that, you can open your console and create a React application using with. But as always, I recommend you use my GitHub repository. The link will be in the description. And here, you will find the starter branch. Inside this branch, you will find everything you need to start this project. We have all the images here. And we have the ESLint configurations. So you'll not get any warning when we use Three.js. And inside the source folder, as you can see, it's an empty project. There are no unnecessary codes or styles. So we will create everything from scratch. And at the end of the video, I'll add here the completed version of the project. There will be another branch, and it's gonna be a completely free open source project. So you can use it anywhere you want without any permission. The only thing I want you to do is give a star for this project. So I can create more open source projects just like this one. Okay, if you want to, you can directly clone this project, but also you can create your own repository by using fork. So when you make any changes, you can push it to your own repository, and it will be easier to see your progress. After doing that, let's clone your own repository. Of course, I'm gonna be using my own repository. I will come here and I'll say git clone. I'll paste the URL, and I want to clone everything inside this folder. So I'll say dot and enter. And they are here. Okay, Right now we can start our application, but before, let's install our dependencies. I'll say npm install. As you can see, our libraries are here. So let's say npm run dev. And our application runs on this port number. Let's run. And it's here. And right now, I'm gonna open my example here. It runs on this port number. And as you can see, we have the hero section, the services section, the portfolio section, and the contact section. So let's create them. I'm gonna refresh here, come back, and inside the source folder, I'll create a new folder, and it's gonna be components. So let's create our sections here, hero, services, portfolio, and contact. And for each section, we are going to have a React component and a CSS file. So I'll say hero.jsx, hero.css. Let's create our component. To do that, I'm going to be using this shortcut. As you can see, it creates our component and gives here a class name. If you don't have any shortcut, just open your snippets, choose here JSX, or if you are using TypeScript, TypeScript JSX. And here you can create your shortcuts. If you want to use my shortcuts, just visit my GitHub repository. Open this JSON file, and you will find all the shortcuts here. Just copy them and paste here. After that, you can use this shortcut. Okay. Let's import our CSS, hero.css, and let's give here a class name and use it here. Okay, this is our main structure. So let's do the same thing for the others. I will close here, and I will create my second component, services, CSS, class name, and the CSS file. Let's do the same thing here. Component, import, the class name and the CSS file. And finally, the contact section. I will paste my class name, create a CSS file, and paste my class name here. Okay, that's all. Let's close everything here and use them inside our app.js. Basically, when we run our application, the main.js runs this app component, and inside this app component, we can import our sections. So I'm gonna delete this text and call my sections. So I'll say hero, services, portfolio, and contact. Let's import them. Hero component from the components folder, hero folder, and the hero component. I'll do the same thing for the others. Here is gonna be services, portfolio, and contact. Let's make them lowercase. Okay, let's see right now. I'm gonna save. And as you can see, all our sections are here. Right now we can give our styles. As you can see, there's a space here on the top and left. We can get rid of this. And also I'm gonna give here a background color. I'm gonna change my font family. And for each screen type, we are gonna give different sizes. Let's open our example here. As you can see, we have a container here. We have a space on the left and right. And if I open my console and shrink my page, you are gonna see that we are changing our spaces for each screen type. So let's do that. I will come back, open my CSS file, and firstly, I'm gonna be using the global selector. So it's gonna select everything and delete the padding and margin. So we are not gonna have a default space. Also, I will say box sizing, border box. Let's choose our body. And I'm gonna give a background color. You can directly give a single color, but I prefer using a linear gradient. And I will choose my first color and the second color. And I'm gonna write here my direction. It's gonna start from top and go to the bottom. And also I'm gonna change the text color. Since we are using a dark background, our text should be something light. I'm just gonna give white. I will change the font family and let's just say System UI. If you want to, you can visit Google Fonts and choose any font family here. In this case, you will need to add this to your HTML file and inside body, change your font family. But I'm not gonna be using any special font family. It's gonna be just System UI. Okay, and one more thing. I'm gonna choose anchor tags and I will say text decoration none and the color is white. Because by default, when you add a link, its color is blue and there's an underline. To prevent this, we are gonna change them. Okay, right now let's create our container and give a size for each screen type. So our application will be responsive. Let's say container. And let's write our class name here. Firstly, I'm gonna give my maximum width. It's not gonna be larger than this size. And I'm gonna give a space for the left and right side. Padding left, 16 pixels, and right. And I'm gonna center my container. So let's say margin left, auto, and right. Let's come here. And as you can see, there's a space here. Let me actually give here minimum height 100 VH so we can see better. Okay. And I'm gonna give a background for now. We are gonna delete later. And this is our maximum size. And here we have a 16 pixels padding. And right now I'm gonna open my console. And for each screen type, I'm gonna change the size of my container. For the mobile screen, as you can see, our 16 pixels padding is still here. So I will come back. And I'm gonna use media query. This is how we are creating responsive designs. I'll say media and I'll write here my condition. And it's gonna be minimum width. Let's say 640 pixels. And I'm gonna choose my container. And maximum width will be again 640 pixels. Remember at the beginning it was this number, but for the small screens the maximum width will be 640. Let's see. I'm gonna expand my page. And after this point, as you can see, the space is changing because our container is always 640 pixels. So let's do the same thing for other screens. For the medium screen, which is 768 pixels, the maximum width will be the same. In this case, for the small screens, it's gonna be 640. For the medium screens, as you can see, it's gonna be bigger. And I can do exactly the same thing for each screen type. So I will come back, create one more, 124, and two more, 1280, and finally the biggest screen, 1536. If you want to, you can add more breakpoints, but for our application, it's enough. I'm gonna save. And let's see again, the small screen, medium, large, X large, and XX large. This is how we create responsive layouts using CSS. Right now, whenever we want to change anything on a specific screen size, we are going to be using these breakpoints. Right now, I can close this CSS, and for each section, I'm going to give 100 VH height. Because remember, for each section, we have exactly the same size. They all are 100 VH. So it's gonna fit inside our screen. To do that, let's wrap our each section and give a size. So I will come here and create my first section. And I'm gonna give here an ID, hero, or let's say home. And let's do the same thing for the others. Services, portfolio, and contact. Okay, let's give our height. I'll open my CSS. And after this container, I'll say section, and the height will be 100 VH. As you can see, hero, services, and others. Right now, I'm gonna give a snap scroll effect. Let's close here and here. Firstly, I'm gonna give a different background for each section so we can see better. Of course, it's temporary. So I'll say section and child. I'll choose the first child and I'll say background color. Let's choose any color, doesn't matter. By the way, I can remove this container color. We don't need this anymore. I'm gonna choose the others and change the color. Okay, I will save. So right now we can give our effect. So when we are on the hero section and when we scroll down a little bit, it's gonna automatically move to our services section. To do that, we are gonna be using the HTML tag, scroll snap type. It's gonna be vertical, so I'll say y-axis and mandatory. And I'll say scroll behavior, and it's gonna be smooth. So when we scroll down or up, the animation will be slower. And I will come here and I'll say scroll snap align, and it's gonna be center. So it's gonna scroll to the middle of our component and we'll be able to see the full size. Let's see, I'm gonna scroll up. As you can see, hero section. I'm gonna scroll a little bit, services and others. Right now we don't need our colors. Let's get rid of them and save. So right now we can take care of the hero section. Let's open, close this app, this menu, and let's see what we are gonna have. I will open my example And here we are going to have a background that includes this 3D shape and this image. And we are going to have different items for the left and the right side. So basically, we are going to have two sections inside the hero section, left and right. Let's create. I'll say hero section. The first one will be left and right. And inside this, we are going to have a title, these awards, and this SVG. I'll come here and let's say h1 tag, and it's going to be hero title. Hey there. And I'm going to give here a breakpoint. And I'll create a span. And I'll write a name here. I'm John. Or what was that? Okay, Robert. I'm giving this span because, as you can see, this color is different. I will paste it here. And after that, let's create one more div, and it's gonna be awards. And it includes a title, top rated designer. We will have a description. You can write here anything you want. And after that, we are gonna have a list. Let's say award list. And it includes 3 images. Let's add them. The first one, award1.png. Let's see our image inside the public folder. As you can see, they are here. Let's use them. I'll create 2 more. Just like that. And finally, we are gonna create our SVG. So after these awards, actually let me give comment for each section so you can understand better. It's gonna be title, awards, scroll SVG. I'm gonna create an anchor tag here. And when we click here, it's gonna show our services section. So I will just copy and paste my SVG. You can find it in the GitHub repository or just search for scroll SVG on Google and use it here. You can also use an image, doesn't matter. I just mean you don't have to use this SVG. You can use any icon you want. And after that, for the right side, we are gonna have 4 sections. The first one will be follow component. Let's say follow. Inside, we are gonna add our social media accounts. So let's say anchor tag. You can write here your account link. I'm just gonna leave it empty. And inside, I'll create an image and use here our images. Let me show you. Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Let's use them. I'll create 2 more. Just like that. And after that, we are gonna have this speech bubble. As you can see, there's an animation here and there's an image. So let's say speech bubble or just bubble. And to do that, I'm gonna create a new component. Actually, let's write it inside hero. I'll say speech. I'll create my component. Let's say bubble container. And inside we are gonna have our speech bubble. We are gonna add here our animation, but for now, let's just say text. And we are gonna add here an image, and it's gonna be man.png. So let's use it here. I'm gonna import speech from speech. And after that, we are gonna have this certificate div. I'm gonna write my comment and my div. Inside this div, we are gonna have our image and these texts. I'm gonna copy, and for each line, I'm gonna give a breakpoint, just like that. And finally, we are gonna have this button. It's gonna be a circle which includes two texts and this arrow. I will come back. And after this certificate, let's say contact button. I'm gonna create an anchor tag, and it's gonna open our contact section. And inside, I'm gonna create a div. Let's say contact button, and I'm gonna give here contact link. And basically, we are gonna give an animation for this div. As you can see, it's gonna rotate, and inside we are gonna have an SVG. It's just a basic circle. Let me show. As you can see, its color is pink here. And inside this circle, I'm gonna give my text, and it's gonna follow this path. This is how we are seeing this circle effect. As you can see, our texts are rounded. So let's create our texts. Inside this SVG, I'll say a text tag. Let's give a class name, circle text. And inside, we are gonna have two texts. The first one will be hire now, and the second one is contact me. To do that, we are going to be using text path, hire now, and it's going to follow this path, as I said. So I will say href, the ID of this path, which is inner circle path. Just like that. I can do the same thing for the other. Here is going to be contact me, and they are here. Let me zoom in. Right now, I'm gonna separate my texts. The second one will be somewhere here. To do that, I'm gonna give here start offset. You can give any percentage here, let's say 40%. And as you can see, it starts here. Actually, let's give more. Okay, it's much better. And right now, I'm gonna add one more SVG here, and it's gonna be our arrow icon. Again, you can use any image, but I'm gonna be using SVG again. After this SVG, I'm gonna create a div, let's say arrow, and paste my SVG here. Again, you can find it in the GitHub. Okay, that's all I think. I'm gonna zoom out. And right now we can give our style. And after that we are gonna add here our background. But for now, let's separate our section and give a same size for the left and the right section. So I will come here, open my CSS, close this menu, and firstly I'll say height 100%. Remember, the size of the section is 100 VH, so it's gonna be the same. I'll say overflow hidden, and let's separate our items using display flags. So the left and right side will be horizontal. And right now I want to give a same size for the left and right side. The half of the screen will be left and the other half will be right. So I'm gonna choose my sections, remember, each section, and I will say width 50%. And again, height will be 100%. Okay, perfect. And let's separate our items. To do that, again, I'm going to be using display flags, but this time flags direction will be column. So our items will be vertical. And if I say justify content space between, all items will be separated, just like that. And for the right section, I want to move my items to the right. So I will come here, choose my right section, and align items will be end. So they are going to be at the end of our container, just like that. So let's take care of our first item, which is this title. It's going to be big, and I'm going to give here a margin. Let's choose our class name. Firstly, margin top, and the font size will be 100 pixels. I'm going to give a color, it's going to be pink. And if you remember, we have a span here, and its color will be different. So again, I'm going to choose my title, and I'm going to select my span, and the color will be white. Just like that. What about this div? I'm going to give a space between my items, but as you can see, this description is too long. In our example, its size is a little bit smaller. Actually, it's much smaller. It ends somewhere here. So I will come here, choose my class name. Width is 30%. Let's change this p tag and give space between this text and other items. So let's choose our container and p tag. Firstly, font size will be smaller. The color will be a little bit darker. Let's say DDD. And I'm going to give margin. It's going to be 16 pixels on the top and bottom, and 0 from left and right. Just like that. Let's separate our items here. If you remember, we have a list, display flags, and gap between each item will be 8. Just like that. So let's choose our each item and make them a little bit smaller, and I'm going to give a background. As you can see, they are rounded and the background is white. So inside the list, we have image. I'm going to choose my each item, change the size. I'm going to give a padding so we can see our background. It's going to be white. And the border radius will be 100%. So it's going to be a circle. I'm going to save. And perfect. What about this SVG? Again, I'm going to give a margin. Firstly, let's give a class name. It's going to be scroll. Let's use it here. Margin. And let me show you something. I'm going to give a background. And as you can see, it contains the entire left section. To prevent this, I'll say width, maximum content. So it's going to end here. Okay, I'm going to remove this. And we finished our left section. Let's take care of the right section. Let's start with this container. Firstly, our icons will be vertical. And remember, we have a text here. And we are going to rotate this text. It's going to be vertical. So let's come here. Where is our right section? I'm going to cut this and move this here. So all the items related to right will be under this. And the first one is the follow section. Firstly, I'm going to make them vertical. Remember how we are doing this. Flex direction will be column. Gap between each item. And also I'm going to give a padding. And we have a background color. Let's see. This purple color. So I'll say background color and paste my color here. And I'm going to give border bottom right radius. Because remember, there's a radius here. Border bottom right radius, 10 pixels. And I'm going to choose my images. Change their sizes. And let's add our text. It's going to be follow me. After this third item, let's say follow text container and follow text. Just like that. Let's use it here. Again, I'm gonna give exactly the same size, as you can see, and my item will be vertical. So let's choose our text. I'm gonna give a background. It's gonna be this red color, something between red and pink. I'm gonna reduce the font size. It's gonna be small, and I'm gonna be using rotate, and it's gonna be 90 degrees. Just like that. Let's change the size. It's gonna be just one line. To do that, we are gonna be using width and maximum content. And let's give our height 100%, which is 20 pixels. Let's see. As you can see, its position is here because we are rotating our item. So what I'm gonna do here is, when we start rotating our item, I'm gonna keep this point stable. The top left point is gonna be stable, it's not gonna move, and we are gonna start rotating other points. To do that, I'm gonna be using transform origin, and I will say left top. As you can see, this point is stable, and others are moving. In this case, there will be a 20 pixels space here. To prevent this, we can move our item, transform, translate Y, and minus 20 pixels. Just like that. It's on the x-axis, but remember, we use rotation. This is why we are using translate Y. And let's give a padding, 0 from top and bottom, 8 from left and right. And let's center this text. We can use display flags, align item center, and perfect. And right now I can do the same thing here. I'm gonna give border radius, but only for this point. So I will say border, bottom, this time left radius. Of course, again, it's rotated. In this case, it should be right. Just like that. Because before the rotation, the right point is here. And awesome, it looks pretty nice. We are gonna take care of this animation, but before this is easier, let's take care of this. I'm gonna add my class names for the feature. Container and bubble, and this image. And after that, we can take care of the certificate. Firstly, I'm gonna reduce its size, 60%. Let's see, it starts somewhere here, and they are gonna be vertical. Display flags, flags direction column, and gap between our icon and text will be 8 pixels. I'll say text align center, so they are gonna be centered. Let's change this line height. They are too close to each other. 24 pixels, just like that. I'm gonna change the color and font weight. It's gonna be lighter, 300, and the color will be a little bit darker. Not too much. Okay, let's take care of this image. It's too big. I'm gonna choose my image. It's gonna be 70 pixels. But as you can see, they are not centered. Since we use display flags, we can center them using align item center. And perfect. And what about this? I'm gonna move my arrow here. To do that, we can use position absolute. Firstly, I'm gonna give here a margin as we did for this scroll button. Let's remember, contact link, 50 pixels. And for this circle text, I'm gonna change letter spacing, let's say 3 pixels. As you can see, there is a space between each letter, and I'm gonna increase the font size, let's say 20. Perfect. And let's move our arrow here. Its class name is arrow, and its position will be absolute. If you are using absolute positioning, the parent should be position relative, and our parent is contact button. Just like that. Actually, let's move this here. And let's center our item. To do that, I'm gonna write my directions, and they are gonna be 0. And if I say margin auto, it's gonna be centered inside our parent. Okay, it's still here because let's give a background and see its size. As you can see, it's too big. I'm gonna change its size and center my arrow icon inside. Align item center, justify content center, just like that. So we don't need this background anymore. And perfect. So what about this speech bubble? Let's open our component. Firstly, I'm gonna give my style, and after we are gonna give our animation. Firstly, it's gonna be 50%. Our items will be horizontal and gap between them will be 8. And I'm gonna separate my items using justify content space between. Just like that. Let's give a background for this text. Firstly, I will say 100% and I'm gonna give a height 100 pixels. And the background color will be white. In this case, I should change the text color, let's say 5. So it's gonna be gray. I'm gonna give a padding 24 pixels and I'm gonna increase the font size. Just like that. Let's give a border radius, but remember, this side will be sharp. So we are not gonna give for bottom right. So I will say border radius 20 from top left, right, and bottom right will be 0 and bottom left. Just like that. What about this image? Let's fix it. And we are gonna give this background. Firstly, let's give our width and height. It's gonna be a circle. I'll say object width cover. And finally, the background color will be our pink color. Okay, it's still the same. Because this is not the parent, it should be bubble container, as you can see. And let's move this here. To do that, I'll say align items and. So right now we can give our animation. To do that, we are going to be using a library called React Type Animation. Let's install. I'll open my console. Let's create a new one. npm install React Type Animation. It's really easy to use. As you can see, we are going to import this component, and inside we can write our texts. And for each text, as you can see, it waits 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. And you can change the speed, you can give a style, you can repeat. Let's do that. I'm gonna copy this. And inside the bubble, I'm gonna paste it. Let's close here, import our component, just like that. And let's change this text. Actually, I can use this one. I'm gonna make this smaller for now. And here, let's generate a random text. I will just copy and paste. Again, 1 second. And I'm gonna remove the others. We are gonna have just 2. And before starting, again, I want to wait 1 second. Because remember, we are gonna have different animations. And it's gonna take 1 second if I refresh the page. As you can see, After 1 second, we can see our items, and I want to start after 1 second. I can change the speed, let's say 40. I don't need this style we already have for this container. And typing speed will be 40, but deletion speed will be faster, let's say 60, and repeat will be infinity. If you want to, you can ignore deleting by using omit deleting animation, but I want to see. Anyway, it's gonna be faster. And let's see. Okay, awesome. After 1 second, as you can see, it's gonna delete. And the second one. 1 second and delete. Okay, it works. So I can close here. And let's take care of our background. I will come here. We are gonna have this image and after this 3D shape. Close this. And at the end of the div, let's create one more and it's gonna be background. And it's gonna include our 3D shape. For now, it can stay. We don't have the library yet. So let's create our image container. I'll say hero image. And inside, I will create my image. And it's gonna be hero.png. Okay, let's center this. Its position will be absolute. I'll come here. And after the hero, let's say background is gonna be position absolute. And it's gonna contain the entire component. So let's say 100%, height 100%. And if I say top 0, left 0, so it's gonna start here and contain all our screen. Of course, it should be under our other items. To do that, I'm gonna be using z-index and let's say -1. As you can see, we can see our texts and other items. And right now, I can do the same thing for my image. I'll say h-image. And I'm gonna choose image here. Let's use position absolute again, because I want to center my item. Remember how we are doing this. Directions will be 0. And margin will be auto. And I'm gonna reduce the height a little bit. Let's say 80%. Just like that. But if I give background color, as you can see, it contains all width. To prevent this, remember what we are doing. Width will be maximum content. And for this image, 100%, height 100%, and the object fit will be cover. So it's gonna fit inside our container. Let's see. Okay, but it's centered because we said top 0. If I delete this, it's gonna be bottom 0, and it's gonna center them horizontally using left and right. Just like that. Okay. So right now, we can create our 3D shape, or if you want to, let's take care of the animation first. I think it's gonna be better because after creating our 3D shape, we are gonna take care of this page, this section, and again, we are gonna be using 3D shapes, so it will be more consistent and easier to understand. For the animation, we are gonna be using motion. Let's open motion.dev. As you can see, it's an animation library for JavaScript and React. I'm gonna choose React. Let me zoom in. And firstly, let's install our library. I will copy here and paste here. And after that, we can import the features using Motion React. Let's see how to use it. As you can see, when we create HTML tags, we are going to be using Motion, and after that, we'll be able to animate our HTML tags. Let's test this first. I'm going to open my menu and create here a test component. Of course, you don't have to do this, it's just a test. I'll open my app.js, comment them out, and call my test component. Let's create here a motion div. Let's import this. Import motion from motion react. I'm gonna close this console. And right now, let's give a style for them. Actually, I can directly make this a section, so it's gonna be 100 VH. I'll say style. I'll give width and height. Let's say 300. I'm gonna give a background. Let's say red. And I'm gonna center this. Align items. And justify content. Okay, it's here. So let's see how to give an animation. As you can see, we are going to be using the Animate object, and inside this object, we are going to pass our animation. It can be a background color, opacity, X and Y. Let's try them. If I say animate X 100, as you can see, it moves on the X axis. I can write something else here. I'll say minus 200, for example. As you can see, I can change its opacity. Let's say 0.5. Just like that. Right now, our div is animated, but we cannot see the animation because we don't have any duration or the initial type. To do that, I can come here and create my initial position. It's gonna be, let's say, 0, 0, and here is gonna be 0, and let's make this 1. So basically, at the beginning, everything will be 0, but when we animate, we are gonna change our position and the opacity. And I can write here my transition, and let's say duration 2 seconds. I'm gonna refresh my page, and perfect. Again. Okay, this is how it works. We can also give here the timing function. So I'll say is. As you can see, there are many options. If I say is in out, it's gonna start and end slowly. I'll refresh. Just like that. I can also make this constantly. So I'll say repeat and infinity. Just like that. So it's gonna move every 2 seconds. I can also give here a delay. Let's say 4 seconds. So at the beginning, I'm gonna refresh. As you can see, at the beginning, the opacity is 0, so we cannot see it. And after, it starts our animation. It's that easy, guys. Just give your initial styles and animation styles and write your transition. And also you can write your animations without initial styles. I'm gonna comment this out. And this time, I'm gonna be using an array and write here my initial point and the animated point. So it's gonna start from 0. And after 2 seconds, it's gonna be 100. I'm gonna comment this out. And again, 0 minus 200 and opacity. I'm gonna save. And as you can see, it's exactly the same. This is how flexible our library is. And also, instead of writing everything inside this div, you can define them outside of your component. To do that, we are going to be using variants. I'll say const variants. It's going to be an object. And inside, we are going to define our initial styles, let's say x minus 100, opacity 0, and when we animate, x will be 0, opacity will be 1, and I can write here my effect here. Transition, duration will be, let's say 2 seconds, and right now I can use my variance here. I'll say variance equals variance. Let's actually change this name so you can understand better. I'll say shape variance, for example. And I will say the initial style will be initial inside this object, which is this object, and the animate will be this animate. As you can see, it works. So basically, you can give here any name you want, just like initial rectangle, animate rectangle, and we can create other variants. Let's say circle, for example. And we can use different animations here. Let's say Y. It's gonna take 3 seconds. And let's create one more div. By the way, I'm gonna change here initial rectangle and animate. And I will create one more div. Let's remove here. It's gonna be, let's say green, and it's gonna be a circle. So I will say border radius 100%. And change my initial and animate styles. I will come here, refresh my page, and right now I can animate my items independently. And one more thing I want to show you. Let's create here a list. JavaScript, React, Next.js. And right now, using variants, I can give my animation. I'll say const list variants. It's gonna be an object. Let's say initial again. X minus 100, Y minus 100, and opacity. I will create my animation. Animate. As I said, the name can be different. But for the consistency, we are going to be using initial and animate. Here is going to be 0, 0, and 1. Let's write our transition. I'll say duration will be 3 seconds. And I'm going to add here one more thing, and it's going to be stagger children. And let's say 1 second. So basically, we can use the same style for each children, but the duration between each children's animation will be 1 second. Let's see. Firstly, I'm going to be using motion, variants, list variants. I'll add here the initial and animate. And if I use the same variants for the children, we don't have to write initial and animate anymore. We can directly animate them thanks to these stagger children. So I'm gonna write motion and variants. Let's see. As you can see, it takes 3 seconds and the duration difference between each item will be 1 second. Let's see again. Okay. This is important because in our website, let me refresh. As you can see, we are going to be using stagger children. So this was a quick tutorial. Of course, you are going to learn more advanced features like scroll effects, but for now, this is enough. Let's take our changes back. I'm gonna leave this file in the GitHub repository, but delete from here. I will save, and let's give animations for our hero items. Firstly, let's take care of our title. So I will say motion. Let's import motion from motion react. Let's firstly use all our animations here inside the H1. I'll say initial. The Y will be -100. Opacity will be 0. I'm always using Y and opacity because they are the common animations. Of course, you can use something different, but changing color or shape is not a good idea. We usually use X, Y, and opacity, but as I said, you can use whatever you want. So let's copy here. I'll say animate. Opacity will be 1, Y will be 0. Let me close this menu, and I will write my transition. And the duration will be 1. Just like that. Let's refresh. Okay, perfect. What about here? Let's create our variants and use them for each item here. I will come here, const award variants. I will say initial. This time we are going to be using X and opacity. One more, and it's going to be animate. As we always do, 0 and 1. And I will write transition. The duration will be 1 second. And stagger children will be 0.2 seconds. Okay, let's use this here. I will say motion.div. Variants will be award variants. I will write my initial style and animate. And I can use variants for each item here. But before, of course, I should use motion. Just like that, and after variants. Just like that. Let's see. And perfect. Let's see again. I'm gonna refresh. Okay, awesome. What about this button? As you can see, there's an infinite animation here. And for this anchor tag, I'll say motion. And let's define our animation in a different way here. I'm just gonna be using animate. I'll say Y. And remember, for the initial point, we are gonna be using an array 0 to 5. And for opacity, 0 to 1. You can also add here different breakpoints. If I say 0, at the beginning of the animation, it's gonna be 1, and at the end, it's gonna be 0 again. So you don't have to define here only 2 points. This is another awesome feature. And let's write our transition. Firstly, I'll say repeat infinity. Duration will be 4 seconds. And timing function will be useInView. Just like that. As you can see, it's moving on the y-axis. And at the end, its opacity is 0 again. And one more thing here. Let me open my example. And as you can see, we are also moving this line here. And this is our path here. So I will say motion, animate, Y will be 0 and 5, and the transition will be the same. Just like that. Let's see. And perfect. It's that easy, guys. So let's do the same thing for the others. Let's take care of our follow motion.div, and for each children, I'm gonna give motion again. And also for this text, just like this. And let's do the same thing. I'm gonna create my variants. Let's say follow variants. And this time we are gonna move them on the y-axis. Just like that. And the others will be the same. If you want to, you can write them inside these variants and use them together. But anyway, it can stay like that. Let's give our variant just like that. I'll say initial and animate, and use this variant for each children. Just like that. Let's see. I will refresh, and perfect. Okay, awesome. What about here? We are gonna take care of speech also. Motion react. I will use it here. Let's say animate. And we are gonna just change the opacity 0 to 1. And after that, let's write our transition. The duration will be 1. And that's all. Just like that. What about here? It's actually gonna be exactly the same. I'll just keep it simple, and I recommend you do the same. Of course, you can use some crazy animations, but it's gonna look overwhelming. I think the position and opacity is enough. And for this contact link, I'll say motion, animate, I will say X. This time at the beginning is gonna be 200, at the ending 0. I will say opacity again, 0 to 1, and I will write my duration. It's gonna take 2 seconds. But for this contact button, we are gonna do something different, and we are gonna use rotation. Let's see. As you can see, it's turning, and its repeat is infinity. So I will say animate, rotate, 0 to 360, and the duration will be, let's say, 10 seconds. So it's gonna be slower, and I will say repeat, infinity, and I will say the timing function is linear, so it's not gonna change the speed. Just like that. Okay, awesome. Let's see. I'm gonna refresh my page. Okay, perfect. So what about our responsive design? Let's open our console, shrink our page. At this point, we can maybe change our font size. Let's open our CSS. Actually, I will open it here too, so we can compare. As you can see, it's 100 pixels. Let's reduce this. I will come here and write my breakpoints, and I will say media, let's say maximum width, because we are using desktop first. Biggest point will be 1536. I'm gonna choose my H title, and the font size will be 72. Just like that. And if it's smaller, here, I'm gonna change my background size. As you can see, it was 100%. This time, let's copy this, paste here. I'm gonna change my breakpoint. And this time it's gonna be 60%. And we were using top 0, left 0. This time, top will be auto because we are gonna align this at the end of our component. To do that, I'm gonna be using bottom 0, just like that. But it's too small. We can a little bit increase, or we can change this image size. As you can see, it was 80%. So I will say H image. Height will be 100%. Okay, perfect. What about here? As you can see, it's overflowing. Let's see our bubble. As we realize, we are using 50% here. Let's change it. It's gonna be 100%. Okay, perfect. I can do the same thing here. I can increase the size. Remember, our container is awards. It was 30%, but this time it's gonna be 60%. So it will be bigger. I can increase this text size. Remember, we decreased here, but this time, let's increase 88 pixels. And perfect. What about smaller screen? At this point, I can decrease again. I will copy this, paste here, and change the size. This time, background will be smaller, height 50%, and H title, font size will be 72. Just like that. And others can stay the same. Let's create one more. It's gonna be the medium screen, which is 768. And this time, our left and right side will be vertical. So I'm gonna choose my hero component, which is the parent component, and flex direction will be column. Because remember, at the beginning, it's display flex. That means left and right side are horizontal. This time it's gonna be vertical. Let's make this 60 again, just like that. And change our width for each section. Because remember, for each section we are using 50%. This time we don't need to do this. It's gonna be 100%. Let's decrease here. Okay. Let's center our items. So I'm gonna choose the left side. Align item center. Also, text align will be center. Just like that. Let's give a space. Cap will be 36. Just like that. What about here? Again, I'm gonna center. So I'm gonna choose awards. We gave here 60%, but this time it's gonna be 100%. Because our section is 100% right now. I'm gonna save. Awesome. I'm gonna center them also. Award list. Justify content center. Just like that. Let's get rid of this speech, follow list, and certificate. Just like that. And I'm gonna move my button here. To do that, I'm going to choose the left side, make this right, and I will say justify content at the end of the right side. Just like that. And it looks awesome. This is how we give responsiveness. Just create your breakpoints, choose your elements, and change the style. And be careful here, since we are using desktop first, the bigger screen will be at the top of others. So here is gonna be the smallest. So right now we can take care of our 3D shape. Let's close them. Come here and open our documentation. Just search for React 3 Fiber. You are gonna see this website. Open it and click the installation. I'm gonna zoom in. Let's install. I'm gonna copy this, open my console, and paste it here. And again, to test it, I'm gonna create one more component. Let's say test2 or test3D. And let's use it here. Okay, I can close here, and let's see how to use it. We already have our application. Let's come here, your first scene. Firstly, we are gonna use the canvas component. It basically represents our scene, and inside this scene, we can create our 3D objects. Let's copy this. Import. I'll close this sidebar, and here, again, I'm gonna be using section and center everything. And let's use our canvas component. And inside, we are going to add our mesh component. By the way, the canvas is responsive, as you can see, so it's going to fit inside the parent, so you can resize it using your parent size. Okay. After that, let's use mesh. As you can see, it says you don't need to import anything. It's just like native JSX elements. So after installing this library, whatever you write inside the canvas will be native elements, just like we write inside our components, our HTML elements, like h1, p tag, div. So you don't have to import them. And after creating mesh, we can add any geometric shape inside. As you can see in the example, it uses a box. Let's try. Inside mesh, I'm going to be using box geometry. Let's see our test, by the way. As you can see, it's here. It looks two-dimensional, but don't worry, we are going to give our sizes. And after, it gives this standard material, and it basically allows us to give any skin to our geometry. It can be a color, a text, a skin. In our example, we are just going to be using a color. Let's see. And this time our shape is black because we didn't give any color. Let's scroll down. And as you can see, we can give our dimensions, and it represents the width, length, and depth. Just like that. And after that, we can add our lights. Essentially, we have two lights, the ambient light and directional light. When you use the ambient light, It provides even and non-directional light to the entire scene. So basically it lights everywhere same amount. Let's see. And right now our shape is lighter. It's not dark anymore. And if I increase the intensity, you are gonna see that it's lighter and lighter. If I make this 1, it's gonna be white. So higher values make the entire scene brighter. Let's make this a little bit lower. And I can give here a color. Let's say red. Just like that. We can also use the directional lights. And when you use it, it creates a light in a specific direction. So some parts of our shape will be lighter and the other parts will be darker. And it will give us the 3D effect. I'm gonna copy this, paste. And if I change the direction, we are not gonna see anything because we cannot see the other dimensions. But since we are using light here, we are gonna see the same color. But if I delete this, make this 0, as you can see, there is no light in this direction, so it's gonna be darker. But how we are gonna give the interactivity? When we click and move our mouse, we need to see the other directions. To do that, we are gonna be using one more library, and it's gonna allow us to use the interactivity, and also when we use it, we'll be able to add our 3D models, just like this one or the others. Let's install. I'll open my console. npm install react 3 and try. Oops, there's an error, of course. 3. Okay, right now we can control our shape. Let's close here. And I'm gonna import orbit controls. That comes from our library. Let's save and see. I'm gonna come here and rotate my shape. As you can see. Awesome. I can also zoom in or out. Right now, if you change your directional light, you are gonna see the changes. As you can see, we have light here, here, and here. Okay, awesome. And using this new library, instead of this standard material, you can use mesh distort material. Let's give a color. And we are gonna attach this as a material. Let's see right now. And as you can see, our shape is changing. All the edges are being distorted. We can also give the intensity of the distortion, let's say 0.5. We can also change the speed, just like that. You can enable or disable the zoom. Enable zoom. If I say false, we won't be able to zoom anymore, but we can rotate. Okay. Of course, instead of this rectangle, this box, you can create different shapes. You can create a circle, a triangle, but I want to show you my favorite one, and it's sphere. Again, it comes from React 3 Dry. And I'm gonna wrap my distort material with this sphere. Let's change here and see how it looks. 50, 100. As you can see, it's just like a bubble. And it looks awesome. If you want to, you can just play around these arguments 100, 200. It's gonna be different right now. There is no specific shape. You can just play around here. You can also give a scale, so it's gonna be bigger or smaller. If I say 2, for example, it's gonna be much bigger. Just like that. And in our example, we are using exactly the same thing here. As you can see, its color is pink and it's bigger, but we are not using our orbit controls. Let's create that. It's gonna be a little bit bigger. The color will be this pink color. Let's remove this or comment this out so you can see in the GitHub. I can change the light color. Let's make this 1, so it's gonna be much brighter. I'm gonna save, and perfect. If I make this 2, as you can see, it's exactly the same. So let's use it in our application. And after that, I'm gonna show you how to add 3D models. So I can copy here and create a new component. Inside the hero section, I'll say shape.jsx, create my component, and paste it here. Actually, we can directly export our sphere and use the canvas inside the hero component. So let's use here React fragments. Wrap this. I'm gonna delete here, and let's use it inside the hero. After our background, or before, let's add our shape. To do that, we are gonna be using canvas and our shape here. Be careful, don't import this one. We are gonna be using our component, this second one. And there is something important here. Since we are using 3D objects, it's gonna take longer to load. To prevent any interruption, we can wrap this with React Suspense. That comes from React. And during the loading process, we can show, let's say, loading. You can add here any text, skeleton, or progress bar. In this case, our application will be faster. Let's use our sections again. I'm gonna remove this. Open them. I can delete here. Let's import them. I'll save. Let's see. And awesome. It looks amazing. And for the small screens, if you want to, you can delete it, but it looks okay. We don't have to change it. So right now, we can take care of our second section, the services. So I'm gonna come here, close this menu, and all tabs here, and open my section, services. And again, we are gonna have 2 sections, left and right. We are gonna have some texts here, but let's continue with our 3D objects. So after dividing my section, I'm gonna show you how to import 3D objects. So I will come here, create 2 sections, service section 1 and 2. Here is gonna be left and right, and their sizes will be equal. So we are gonna do exactly the same thing here. Let's separate them. Again, 100%, overflow hidden, and display will be flags. And for each section, I'm gonna give 50%, so they are gonna be equal. And again, I'm gonna separate my items using flagbox. They are gonna be vertical. And justify content will be center. So I'm gonna center everything vertically. So let's see how to add 3D objects. I'm gonna come here and open sketchfab.com. And here you can search for any 3D objects. For our application, we are gonna need a MacBook. So let's say MacBook. And as you can see, this looks pretty good. And this is gonna be our model. And the best thing is we will be able to change this wallpaper. We are gonna add here our own image. In the example, as you can see, we are using exactly the same page. And let's download this. I'll scroll down. And here, I'm gonna be choosing gltf. As you can see, it's 2 megabytes, it's not too low, it's not too high. We can use it, but I don't recommend you use any heavy 3D objects because we are building a website. It has to be fast. So I'm gonna download. Let's see. As you can see, our file is here, and inside the textures, as you can see, we have the wallpaper. So what you can do here is, you can open your image editor. I don't know which one you are using, maybe Photoshop or any other software. Just open it and pass here your own image. And do the same thing for this one. And after that, we are gonna transform our gltf file into a glb file. To do that, we are gonna be using gltf pipeline. Let's scroll down. As you can see, we can install it using Node.js. I'm gonna copy, but we are not gonna do this inside our application. So I will open my console and install. It's already installed, but anyway, I just wanted to show you. And after that, we are gonna open our folder, write gltf pipeline, and the input will be scene gltf, and the output will be a glb file. You can directly use b, so it's gonna generate a glb file with exactly the same name. Let's do this. I will come here, open my folder. Of course, it's inside the desktop, cd desktop, and my folder. Right now, I will copy here gltf pipeline and the name of our file, which is scene. And I will enter. And as you can see, it's here. You can change the name. I'll say computer. And right now, using this model, we are gonna create a React component. To do that, again, we are gonna need a library. By the way, you can find them in the description. And it's gonna be gltf.jsx. I'm gonna scroll down. So here, we are gonna be using npx gltf.jsx and pass here our model. You don't have to install anything. I'll say npx gltf.jsx computer.glb. I'm gonna enter. It's gonna take a while, and after that, as you can see, it's ready. Let's come back. And our React component is ready. So I can copy this and paste inside my React application. I will open my menu. I can close here. And inside services, I'm gonna create a new folder. And let's say computer. And inside we are gonna have two components. The first one will be our model. I'm gonna paste, let's say model. And use this name here and save. I'm gonna delete them. And as you can see, we have to pass our glb file. So let's come back, copy this file, and paste inside our public folder. Again, I'll say model. and use this here. Just like that. And that's all. Right now, using a canvas and Suspense, we can show our model. To do that, I'm going to create a container. And let's create our canvas. That comes from React 3 fiber. And inside, we are going to be using Suspense because it's going to take a while. During this process, we can show a loading text or icon or whatever. And here, I can use my model just like that. And I'm going to add an interactivity. Remember how we are doing this. I'm going to add orbit controls. But I don't want users to zoom in or out. So I will say enable zoom, and it's going to be false. I'm going to use it here. Container. Okay, it's here, but it's too small. To prevent this, I'm going to add here one more thing, and it's going to be the stage component. I'm going to wrap my model, and here you can add any environment. It basically provides some environment effects and lights. As you can see, you can choose any of them. Let's choose city, for example. I'm going to come here. As you can see, our item is bigger, and right now in the background there is a city reflection. You can change here and do whatever you want. You can say forest, for example. In this case, there will be trees, just like that. It can be night. As you can see, I think it's much better. We can use this one. And we can also increase and decrease the intensity. Let's make this 0.5. And this time it looks much better. And there are some fingerprints here, and it looks more realistic. And one more thing I want to show you. We can also show here a perspective camera. You can give here any camera position. You can basically play around here. And I'll say zoom 0.8, and I'll say make default. And right now we are using different direction, and it's smaller right now. If you don't give a zoom here, it's going to be bigger and it's going to cut here. To prevent this, zoom will be 0.8, and we are changing our camera angle. And what else you can do? You can rotate this item by default. To do that, we are going to be using orbit controls, and I will say auto rotate. Just like that. I'm not touching, but it's rotating. Okay, awesome. So this is how we add 3D objects. So right now you can do the same thing for other objects. For example, I searched for PlayStation, I think. And here there was a box. Let's say PlayStation 5 box. Okay, this one. So we are gonna do exactly the same thing here. You are gonna download. By the way, there is no link. Just choose another one. Okay, it was this one, I think. Okay, you can download. Use gltf, but you can also directly download glb because we are not changing anything. For the first example, we are changing this screen, but here you can directly download, and after that, just transform this using gltf pipeline, and after creating glb file, use gltf JSX to transform that into a React component. So I will not waste time. It's gonna be exactly the same. I will just copy and paste here. Of course, they are gonna be in the GitHub repository. If you don't wanna convert, you can directly use them. And let's create our other components. I will copy this, create two more, and this is gonna be console or PlayStation, whatever you say. And here, let's change here. They are gonna be console, and inside this model, I'm gonna delete here and paste my model. Let's do the same thing for the mug. Just like that. Again, I'm gonna paste my JSX. I will save, and let's see. I'll open my service, and let's test them. I will say console, and awesome. And the other one, okay, perfect. As you can see, I added here my logo. You can change it when you download. You can also change your environment, your position. Actually, let's make this 10. I'm gonna change here. It's gonna be 2, and the zoom will be 0.7. Okay. Let's make this -1 and here 0. Okay, this is what I want. As I said, just play around here and find the perfect position for you. But I'm gonna leave them like that. Let's close everything, open our service component again. Right now, I'm gonna comment this out and let's take care of our left side. I'm gonna come here. As you can see, we are gonna have a title here, a list, and counters. Let's create them. Inside the left, I will create h1. How can I help? Or how do I help? Let's give a class name, section title, and after that, we are gonna have a list. Let's say service list. And inside each service, we are gonna have an icon and texts. Okay, I didn't save. Okay, it's gone. Let's create our items. I'll say section. Actually, we can use an array here that includes our services. Each service has an ID, image, title, and a counter. Image, title, and counter. Let's use them. So basically, I'm gonna be using here a map, services.map. For each service inside, we are gonna call this div. Let's give a unique key, service.id. And I'm gonna create my icon container. Let's say service icon. Inside, we are gonna have our image, and the source will be service.image. And one more container, and it's gonna include our texts, or let's say info. I'm gonna create h2 tag, which is our title, and h3 tag, and it's gonna be our counter. Okay, let's give a style. I'll open my CSS here, close this sidebar, and choose my title. It's gonna be bigger, let's say 88, and I'm gonna give a margin bottom. just like that. And what about this list? I'm gonna give space between each item. I will choose my list, display flags, flags direction column, and gap between each item will be 16. And for each service, not section, service, I'm gonna reduce the width because, as you can see, its size is smaller and items will be horizontal. So let's say 50%. I'm gonna give a padding, border radius, 20 pixels, and the background color will be this purple color. And after that, I can center my items, display flags, align item center, and gap between the icon and the text container will be 16. We can also click, so let's say cursor pointer, just like that. Of course, they are too big. Let's take care of them. I'm gonna choose my icon container. I will give my size. I'm gonna make them a circle and center my items. And for the image inside, I'm gonna give size. It's gonna be smaller. I'm giving this height and width here because I'm gonna change the background. For each type, we are gonna give different background color. So let's choose our H2 tag and H3. It's gonna be a little bit bigger. Font weight will be 500 and I'm gonna give margin bottom. So I'm gonna separate this H2 and H3 tags. And for this one, font size will be smaller and the font weight will be lighter. Just like this. So let's give different color for each icon. So I will say, take the service and the nth child, which is 1. And inside we have our icon, service icon, and its background will be this color. Just like that. So let's do the same thing for the others. Second and third. It's gonna be green and gold. And finally, our counters. To do that, again, I'm gonna create a new component because we are gonna be using a state. And whenever our numbers changes, I don't wanna re-render my component. So let's come here, open our menu. Inside services, I will create one more component and it's gonna be counter. I will close this menu. Let's remove this and say counter. And inside we are gonna have our counter, let's say for now 29, and a p tag, let's say project completed. After we are gonna change here, we are gonna take our number and text as a props, but for now, for the design purpose, they can stay like that. After this div, I'm gonna create my counter list. I will call my component. Actually, we can use them right now. I'll say from 0 to 104. And the text will be projects completed. And I'm gonna create one more, happy clients. And the number will be, let's say, 72. So let's take them from, to, and text and use them here. Of course, we don't have any animation yet. Let's say to and text. Okay, let's separate them and give a style. As you can see, color will be pink and font size will be bigger. I will come here and I will say counter, display flags. Actually, let's write our list first. I'm gonna separate them Firstly, I'll say 50%, display flags, align item center, and justify content will be space between. Let's give a space here. Just like that. Okay. And for each item, I'm gonna make them vertical. So I will say flex direction column, and the gap between the number and text will be 8. And for the H1 tag, font size will be bigger, and the color will be our pink color. Just like that. And for the P tag, it was P tag or... okay, it's gonna be smaller. I can also add here plus. Okay, awesome. Right now, let's take care of our responsive design, and after that, we are gonna give the animations. So I will come back, open my CSS. I'll say media, and remember, we are writing here our maximum width. And it's gonna be the biggest screen size. Let's open our console. For the big screen, we are going to change the size of our service and counter list containers. Let's open our CSS here also. As you can see, it was 50%, but this time it's going to be bigger. Let's say 70%. I will do the same thing for the counter list. Just like that. And for smaller, I'm gonna increase this size. Let's say title, and font size will be really big. Of course, pixels here. Okay, and I'm gonna increase this size. Service, this time it's gonna be 100%. Perfect. And for smaller screen, this time I can decrease this size. Let's create one more. 1024. And this time it's gonna be smaller. Let's say 48. And the service and the counter list will be 100%. Just like that. And if it's even smaller, we are not gonna see our 3D object anymore. Instead, this section size will be 100%, and I'm gonna center everything. So let's create our last breakpoint. I will give a space between them. Okay. And I will say services. Remember, we are using display flags. Right now, I'm gonna center everything. Align item center, justify content center. And our section will be 100%. And I'm gonna delete the right side. So I will say section, and the right section, display will be none. Just like that. Okay, awesome. Right now our component is responsive, so let's take care of the animation. Let's use variants. I'm gonna give animation for this title, and also for each list item we are gonna be using Stagger children. Remember how we are doing this. Right now I can close them and create my variants. I will say const text variants initial. I will be using X and Y. They are gonna be -100, and the opacity at the beginning is gonna be 0. And after the animation, let's say animate, it's gonna be 0, 0, and 1. Let's write our transition, and the animation duration will be just 1 second. I will create one more, and it's gonna be our list variants. This time we are just gonna be using X and opacity, And I'm gonna add here Stagger children. And the duration between each children will be 0.5. Let's use them. Firstly, I'm gonna import motion from motion react. And right now I can use them. Firstly, I'm gonna use for my text, I'll say motion.h1 variance, text variance, and I'll say initial and animate. Let's see. And perfect. Let's refresh. Okay, awesome. But there is something important here. If I scroll up and come back, we are not gonna see any animation. Or if I scroll down and up, there is no animation because it runs only once. So what we can do, we can use motion's useInView hook, and whenever our component is visible, we are gonna run our animation again. Let's do that. I'll say const is in view, useInView hook that comes from motion react, and we are gonna pass here the reference point of our component, and it's gonna be the main container. To do that, we are gonna use useRef hook, const ref, useRef that comes from React, and we are gonna pass it here. In this case, we can use it here. So basically, if our main container is visible, here is gonna be true. If not, it's gonna be false. Right now, I can write my condition here. I'm gonna delete this, and I will say if is in view, use the animate. If not, use the initial. When I come here, okay, but remember our position is here and here. If you want to, you can reduce this threshold. You can start somewhere here and here, and I think it's gonna look better. To do that, we can write here our options, and it's gonna be margin. And let's say minus 200 pixels. This time, when I scroll, it's not gonna run, but if I pass the threshold, it's gonna run. I'll come here, it's not gonna run, and here, awesome. So let's do the same thing for our container here. I'll copy this. I'll say motion.div. This time our variance will be list variance. And for each item, again, I'm gonna be using my variance. Just like that. And since they are children, we don't have to write this. Let's see. I'm gonna refresh. So when I scroll down and up and down, and awesome. We are not gonna give anything for the counters, but instead we are gonna give our counting animation. Let's refresh here. As you can see, it starts from 0 to this number. To do that, firstly, we are gonna store our number. Let's open our counter component. I'll say const count, set count, use state hook, and at the beginning, it's gonna be from. And again, we are gonna check if it's visible or not. I'll say const ref, use ref. Let's use it here. And call our hook const is in view. And we are gonna pass here our ref. I'm not gonna give any margin because it's already small. If they are visible, we are gonna animate. To increase our numbers, we are gonna be using the animate function. And as soon as it's visible, we are gonna run that function. To do that, let's use a use effect. I will pass here is in view, So whenever it changes, we are gonna run this effect and it's gonna animate our count. So let's say const animation animate from 2, and we are gonna give here our animation duration, let's say 4 seconds, and the timing function is out. And during this animation, we are gonna update our count number. To do that, let's use onUpdate. We are gonna take the previous value. I'll say set count and pass here the previous value. And I will say math.floor and the previous value. We are using floors because I don't wanna see something like 10.2. It's just gonna be 10. So basically, it's gonna go from 0 to, let's say, 100. It's gonna take 4 seconds, and during this animation, we are gonna update our count. So let's update here. We can use our count. And since we are using useEffect, we have to create a cleanup function. Otherwise, it's gonna keep listening our animation. So I will say animation.cancel. And we are gonna need here our dependencies from and to. By the way, our ESLint is not working. There is something wrong. It should be a warning here. And we didn't import this animation and there is no warning. But don't worry, I'm gonna fix that. When you use the starter branch, it's gonna be fixed. By the way, not animation, animate. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll down and perfect. It works. So whenever it's visible, it's gonna run again. Okay, awesome. Right now we can open our 3D object, but we need to write here a condition. At the beginning, we are gonna see our computer. When I click here, it's gonna be mug and the console. To do that, let's create here a use state. I'll say current service ID, set current service ID, at the beginning it's gonna be 1, which is web development. And when we click on our items, we are gonna set our state. So I will say on click event, set our state, and pass here the service ID. And using this current service, we can write our condition. I will say if the current service ID equals 1, we are gonna run our computer container. If not, we are gonna check it again. If it's 2, we are gonna run mock container. And if it's not, it's gonna be the console container. As you can see, computer, Mac, and PlayStation. Okay, it works. So we finished our second section. So let's take care of the portfolio. I will come here, close everything, and I will open my portfolio page. And right now I'm gonna add my items here using a list. Let me just paste it. As you can see, each list item has an ID, image, title, description, and a link. Of course, you should add your own projects. Let me show you the images. They are just our previous projects. I'm gonna be using them. And the size of each project will be full screen. Let's see our example again. I'll scroll down. This is our first item. Its height is 100 VH. And when I scroll down, we are gonna see the second item and the others. So basically, we are gonna have 5 full screen items. But for the animation, our items should be listed horizontally because we have this animation. As you can see, they are horizontal. And when we scroll down or up, we are gonna move our list container on the x-axis. To do that, we are gonna be using motion, but before, let's create our list here. I'll come back, and here, I'll say portfolio list, and inside, we are gonna be using our array, map, and for each item inside, we are gonna return a div. Let's create that here. Const list item. We are gonna take the item from the parent, and I'll say return. I'll create a div, let's say portfolio list item or just item. And inside, we are gonna have our image and the text container. So I will say p image. Inside, we are gonna have our item image. And after, I'll say p text. And inside, the title, the description, and a link. Inside this link, we are gonna create a button, and let's say, what was that? View project. And here is gonna be our link. Let's use it here. List item, and we are gonna pass here our item. Of course, if you are using a list, you should give a unique key, item.id, because each item has an ID here. Okay, so let's give our first style. I will open my CSS, close this menu. I will say plist. It's gonna be display flags because our items will be horizontal. Height will be 100 VH and the width will be maximum content. And for each item, I'll give the full size. I'll say overflow hidden, and inside the item, again, the image and text container will be horizontal. So let's say display flags, align item center, and justify content center. And I'm gonna give a gap between them. This space. If you want to, you can give different color for each item. Let's see first. As you can see, image is too big. Let's come back. I'll choose my image. The container size will be 40%. I'll give border radius. And to see this radius, we should give overflow hidden. Let's select our image. Its size will be 100%. And object width will be cover. What about text? Again, 40%. And our text will be vertical. So let's say display flags, flags direction column, and gap between each text will be 24. What about the title? I will choose p text and h1. Let's actually choose the others. P tag and the button. Its size will be bigger, 56. Just like that. I'm gonna decrease the font weight. $300. And for this button, the background color will be pink. I'm gonna give some padding. Border radius. Border will be none. Font weight. And we can click. So I will say cursor pointer. Just like this. Let's give a color for each item so we can see better. I will say p item and child, and I'm gonna select the first child. I'll say background. We are gonna be using gradient. To right, I'm gonna choose our main background, and doesn't matter what we are choosing. Let's say a little bit lighter. And I will do the same thing for the others. This time it's gonna start with this color. And it's gonna be, let's say, this color. And let's do the same thing. And it's gonna be our initial background color, just like this. Okay, let's see our list. As you can see, I can scroll on the x-axis, and each list item is full screen. But there is something important here. When I scroll down, it's gonna open the contact page, but we should keep seeing our portfolio page. To do that, I'm gonna add here some dummy sections. After this list, I'm gonna add a section. I'm not gonna write anything inside. For sections, and remember, inside the index CSS, each section is 100 VH. So we have here 400 VH, and our list is 100 VH also. So in total, there will be 500 VH. And right now, I'm gonna open my app.js and get rid of this section, because we already have sections inside the portfolio. If I save and come back, I will scroll. As you can see, we are still on the portfolio. If I keep scrolling, as you can see, color is changing. And finally, the contact page. So what I want to do is, during the scrolling process, I want to see my portfolio list. To do that, we can use position sticky. Let's close here. Firstly, I'll say height 500 VH, and position will be relative. And for the P list, I'll say position sticky, and the top will be 0. So basically, it's gonna stick to its parent. So even if we scroll down, it's always gonna be visible. So we are not gonna see these sections. Let's try. I will scroll. As you can see, it's always here. I'm gonna scroll up. Actually, let's change those backgrounds. And you can see better. I'll comment this out. Create a new one. I'll say background color. The first one will be red, green, tomato, gold, brown. Doesn't matter what you give. Okay, it's too bright. Maybe you are watching this video at night, so I'm gonna reduce this a little bit, or this opacity. Okay. And right now our list is here, all these items. And let's check this scroll bar. When I scroll down, as you can see, our list is still here. Scroll down again here, and finally the contact page. And our X scroll bar is visible also. We are gonna hide it. And when we scroll on the Y axis, we are gonna move our list on the X axis. To do that, we are gonna be using motion. Let's close here. I'll say motion.div. Let's import. Motion from motion react. But how we are gonna get our scroll progress on the Y axis? It's really easy. We are gonna be using motion's useScroll hook. I'll say const useScroll. That comes from motion react. Don't import this one. Let me show you again here. And we are gonna pass here our reference point, and it's gonna be the main div. So it's gonna start calculating when the main div is visible. Remember how we are doing this? Const ref use ref hook from React and use it here. And I'm gonna pass my ref here, target and ref. Right now we can reach the Y progress. So I will say scroll Y progress. As you can see, we can also see the X progress, but we are gonna use the vertical progress. So I'm gonna choose scroll Y progress. And this value is between 0 and 1. And using this value, we can change our X position here. So for each 100% scroll, we are gonna move our list 100% on the X axis. We will take care of this space, but for now, let's assume that our initial point is here. When I scroll down, it's gonna move our list 100%. So we are gonna see the next item, and when we scroll down again, this time our list will be moved to 100%. Again, when I scroll down, 300%, 400. But how we are gonna give this effect? It's really easy because there's an awesome motion hook for this. I'll say const x translate useTransform hook. Again, comes from Motion React. And we are gonna pass here our progress, scroll Y progress. And as I said, it's between 0 and 1. And during these changes, we are gonna update our X value. It's gonna start from 0. And remember again, for the first item, it's gonna be 100%. To do that, we should get our window width. So I will say minus window inner width. And I'm gonna write here our items dot length. So at the beginning, it's gonna be 0. And at the end of the animation, if we scroll all the items, it's gonna be 500%. And right now I can use this value here. I'll say style. And the X will be this value. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll. As you can see, it works. If I scroll one more, second, third, and fourth. But as I said, we didn't calculate that space. Let's get this back. As you can see, there is a space here. So if I move this 100%, we are gonna see the second item here. To prevent this, let's add one more item here. And its width will be 100%, which is window inner width minus this space. But how we are gonna get this space? To do that, let's create a use state, const container distance, set container distance, use state hook. At the beginning, it's gonna be 0. And I will be using here use effect. And when we run our component, it's gonna calculate the space between our window and our container. So I will say if ref.current, because at the beginning it's gonna be empty, let's say null. But if it exists, I will say const rect ref.current.getBounding client rect. It basically gives the space around our div. Top is 0, left is this space, bottom is 0 again. What we are gonna need is the left side. So we can update our state here. I'll say set state rect.left. So right now we know the distance. Let's create here an empty div, empty. Actually, we can directly give our style here because we are gonna need our distance. And I will say its width will be window.innerWidth minus our distance, container distance. Let's give a color so we can see better. Background color, let's say pink. It's here, and its width is 100% minus this space. That means when I scroll to the right, as you can see, it ends here. In this case, we have here one more item. So I'm gonna increase the size of my container. It's gonna be 600 VH. And I'm gonna add here one more section. And right now we can use our position again. I'll say style, X, and X translate. In this case, when I scroll down, as you can see, it's the pink item, and after we can see our first item, second, third, fourth, and the last one. And after that, the contact section. This is how it works. Okay, awesome. So let's remove this color. I will comment this out so you can test it. And inside the CSS file, I will open them again and remove the others. Okay, awesome. And right now, we are ready to give our animation. We are gonna have two variants. Let's see. When I scroll down, as you can see, our image comes from somewhere here, and the text comes from the bottom right. Let's see again. As you can see, bottom left and bottom right. And we are gonna do this animation when our items are visible. So if I scroll up, this animation runs again. To do that, we are gonna be using useInView hook. We already did before. You know how to do this. Let's come back, create our variants, const image variants, initial, X will be minus 500, Y will be 500, and the opacity will be 0. And when we animate, they are gonna be 0, and the opacity will be 1. So it's gonna be visible. Let's write our transition. The duration will be 0.5, and the timing function will be useInOut. Let's create one more. Or you can use it inside this object, doesn't matter, but let's create text variants. This time it's gonna be 500, 500. They are gonna be the same, but I'm gonna add here Stagger children. And it's gonna be 0.5. Because remember, inside the text, we have different items. Let's use them here. Firstly, I'm gonna get my ref, const ref, use ref hook. And for each item, we are going to have this ref. And remember how we are using our hook. I will say const is in view. Use InView hook. That comes from React Motion. And we are going to pass here our ref. And remember, we can give any margin. And let's say minus 100 pixels. So it's going to start from somewhere here and here. And whenever it's visible, we are gonna apply our animation. So let's say motion.div variance is gonna be image variance. And I will say animate. And I will write here my condition. If it's in view, it's gonna be animate. If not, it's gonna be initial. Let's do the same thing for the text. This time it's gonna be text variants, just like that. And I can do the same thing for other items. Of course, we should write motion, just like that. I'm gonna save, and let's see. I'll open my application, scroll up, and as you can see, our animation works, but the stagger is too long. Let's make this smaller, or maybe even smaller. I'm gonna scroll down. Okay, awesome. And we can see that our previous item is dropping here. Just like that. Okay, it works. And we are gonna add one more thing here, and it's gonna be our progress SVG. As you can see, it's here, and at the beginning, it's gonna be 20%, 40, 60, 80, and 100%. So again, we are gonna be using our progress. Let's come here, open our code. And after our sections, let's create a div here. I'll say portfolio progress. And inside, I'm going to create a circle using SVG. As you can see, it's a basic SVG. We have the positions and the radius. And right now, I'm going to give a stroke color. Firstly, let's give background. It's going to be none. Stroke. It's going to be gray. Just like that. And the stroke width will be, let's say, 20. Of course, it's not gonna be visible. Let's make this sticky also. I'll open my CSS and let's say pprogress. I'll say position sticky. I'll give my sizes and I'll say left 0. And the bottom will be, let's say, 80%. So it's gonna be here. And inside this SVG, I'm gonna add one more circle. And its color will be this pink color, and I'm going to change its length. At the beginning it's going to be 0, and at the end of the animation it's going to be 100%. So let's come back, create one more. This time it's going to be our pink color, and I'll say style, path length, and it's going to be our progress. Scroll by progress. Of course, we should use motion for the animation. Let's see. Okay. If I scroll down, as you can see, it's increasing. But of course, I can change its position. It starts here, but in our example, it starts here at the beginning. So let's say transform, rotate, minus 90, 80, and 80. Just like that. Okay, it works. And at the end, it's still here. We can get rid of this or it can stay, and when we click on this, we can show the portfolio again. Or in the contact section, we can write here portfolio with an SVG, and when we click, it can go up. I don't know. Okay, let's just keep it, and after creating our contact section, we are gonna decide. But for now, let's take care of our responsive design. I will open my console. And for the smaller page, let me refresh by the way. It's happening because we are calculating our distance just once. If you want to, you can listen your window width, and for each movement, you can calculate again, but I'm not gonna do this. Let's take care of our design. Firstly, I can decrease this space here. I'll open my portfolio. Let's move it here and open again. And let's say media query, maximum width 1536. And I'm going to choose my item, p item. As you can see, gap is 100 pixels, but this time it's going to be 50. Okay. And if it's even smaller, let's refresh again so it can calculate. I can decrease this font size. So I will say p text and h1. And let's see what was the value. It was 56. This time it's going to be 48. Just like that. And for the smaller screens, they are going to be vertical. Let's create one more. 1024. And I will choose my item, p item. And this time it's going to be flex direction column. And inside, remember, our image and text is 40%. Let's make this a little bit bigger. It's going to be, let's say, 80%. Let's move it here. Bottom and left is going to be 100% and 100 pixels. Let's see. Okay, perfect. It looks great. And if it's even smaller for the mobile screens, I'm gonna refresh. I can maybe decrease the size of this. So I'm gonna create the last one. Choose the progress. And it's gonna be 50 pixels. Okay, awesome. So right now, we can take care of our contact. Let's see our example here. We have a form here, an SVG, and for this SVG, we are going to give some animations for each part. As you can see, here is moving. We have a path here. We are going to change the colors, this hair. We are going to give this vibration effect and move this paper. Let's do that. Firstly, I'm going to split my entire component. We are going to have the left and right side. I will close everything here, open my contact page, and inside, let's create two sections. We are going to have here a form. Inside this form, we are going to have a title, name, email, message, and this send button. So let's say title. Let's keep in touch. I will create a div. Let's say form item. Firstly, we are going to have a label. Let's say name. And our input is going to be a text. And the placeholder will be John Doe. We are going to have two more. It's going to be email. Type will be email. And the placeholder will be john@gmail.com. And here is going to be message. And this time we are going to be using a long content. So instead of input, let's use text area. We are going to have 10 rows. And the placeholder will be write your message. And finally, I will create my button. And I will say send. Form button. And inside this section, we are going to have our SVG. Let's give our style first. I'll open my CSS here. I'll say height 100%, display flex, and the gap between each item will be 100 pixels. Let's separate our sections. It's going to be 50%, height 100%, and let's give a padding. And I'm going to center my items. Display flex, align items, and justify content center. What about our form? It's going to be vertical, and we are going to give gap between them. Display flex, flex direction column, and gap between items. Let's see. Let's increase its width. It's going to be 80%. Just like that. Let's take care of our inputs and text area. I'll give a padding. Border will be none. And the border radius will be 5 pixels. Just like that. Let's make them vertical. Remember, we have form item, flex direction, and gap between items. What else? We can decrease the label size. It's going to be 13. And for the button, the background color will be our pink color. Text color will be white. I'm going to give some padding. Let's delete the border. Just like that. I'm going to give a radius and cursor pointer. Just like that. Okay, it looks awesome. Let's actually take care of the functionality. When we write our name, email, and message, it's going to send email to the owner's email address. If you are creating a full stack application, you can create your email backend. But if you have a basic portfolio page, you can use a basic solution like email.js. Let's open. I'll open email.js.com, sign in. And as you can see, you can have 200 mails per day for free. You don't have to pay anything. I'm going to add a new service, Gmail, because I'm going to be using my Gmail account. Oh, it's not even 200, it's 500. Okay, this is great. You can connect your account. Okay, I connected my account, and after that, I'm going to create my service. Okay, it's here. Right now, you can create your email template. There's a default one. As you can see, if someone sends a mail, we can use their email, their message, and we can also use their name because we are using this input. So let's say new message from user username. I'm gonna save. And right now, using this template ID and service ID, we can connect to email.js. Let's open the documentation. There was a React documentation, I think. Oh, here. Let's click. I'm gonna copy this and install. npm install email.js browser. Let's import and use ref. Just like that. And after this, we can use our form, use our service ID, template ID, and public key, and send our mail. As you can see, inside the form, we are going to be using onSubmit event, but be careful here. Those names has to be the same name that we defined in the template. User name, user email, and user message. Let's remember again. user username, user message, user email. Let's do this. And create our onSubmit event. And this function. And let's pass here our IDs. To do that, we can hide them inside the env file. I'll say .env. We are gonna need service ID, template ID, and public key. If you are using React and with, you should write here with underscore and the variable name. Of course, we already have here underscore. I'll create two more. Template ID and the public key. Let's take them. Open our dashboard and account, and public key is here. Let's copy this and paste template ID. Of course, public key is here and the service ID. Just like that. I'm gonna save and let's use them here. I will copy this and I will import my variable. To do that, we are gonna be using import meta env and the variable name. Just like that. Let's do the same thing for the others. Template ID and the public key. Just like that. And if everything is okay, we can show our message. Const success, set success, use state hook. At the beginning, it's gonna be false. We can do the same thing for the error. And we can update our states here. If it's successful, set success will be true. And here is gonna be error. Okay, let's use them here. After this button, I'll say span. Of course, if we have the success message, your message has been sent. And I can do the same thing for the error. Something went wrong. And it's gonna be error. Of course, you can give a style, but it can stay. Let's change our input names. User underscore username. User underscore email. And user underscore message. It was message or... Okay, message. So we are ready to send. I will come here. Okay, there is something wrong. Because we didn't define our ref. Use ref hook and send it to our form. Okay, its name is form. And we are sending this here. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna scroll down. Let's say John test. I'm gonna send. Okay, there is something wrong. We have the ref. I think we should send here our event target. That includes our inputs and text area. If I send, as you can see, your message has been sent. Okay, it works. If you open your Gmail, you are gonna see the message. And of course, if it's successful or if there is an error, we should set the other state. So set error will be false, and set success will be false. Test 2, send, and perfect. Okay, it works. So let's take care of our SVG here. To do that, I'm gonna create a new component. I'll open my menu. Inside the contact, I'll say contact SVG. I'll create my component, import motion, motion react. Of course, we are going to do exactly the same thing for the contact page because we are going to give animation for the form. And let's create our variant. Const list variant. Again, we are going to be using Stagger children. Initial x will be 100. Opacity will be 0. And for the animate, as we always do, 0 and 1. And transition, duration will be really short, 0.5. And the stagger children will be 0.2. Let's use it. Again, we can use useInView hook. We already have the ref here. Const is in view. useInView hook. I'll pass here my ref, and again, I'll give margin. Let's say -200. Let's use it for the form. Motion.form, variants, list variant, and I'll say animate. I'll close this menu, and if it's in view, it's gonna be animate, if not initial. Let's use them for the children. Form items. And finally, this button. Just like that. Okay. Motion form. Let's see. Okay. Let's open our console. Ref is not defined. Because we set form here, let's say ref. If you want to, you can create second ref for the form. Actually, let's do this. Ref will be form. And I'm gonna create one more. In this case, we don't have to write target here. We can directly use form.current. Let's see. I'm gonna refresh my page. If I scroll up and down, okay, awesome. So right now, we can add here our SVG and take care of the animation. Let's close everything here. And give this SVG. Again, you can find it in the GitHub repository. I'll just copy and paste here. Just like that. And I created here comments for you, so you can see where the part of our SVG starts and ends. As you can see, this is our string. Let's see. Firstly, I'm gonna use my contact SVG here. Just like that. Let's see our string. I will comment this out. As you can see, it's gone. This is this paper. We have the hat here, hair, the legs, hands, phone, and finally this text. So let's give our motion effects. I'll say motion. As you can see, we have a stroke here, so we can use path length. I'll say animate, path length, the initial and the animated version. Let's write our transition. It's gonna take, let's say, 6 seconds. Timing function is gonna be linear. It's gonna be infinity. I'll say repeat delay between each animation will be 1 second, and also repeat type will be reverse. So it's gonna do exactly the same animation from top and bottom, bottom and top. Just like that. Okay, awesome. So let's copy here and give animation for this paper. There is a group here. I'll say motion.group, animate and transition. Basically, I'm gonna move this on the X and Y axis. 0 to 10, and Y is gonna be the same. It's gonna take 4 seconds. Linear, infinity, and reverse. Let's remove this. I will save, and as you can see, it's moving. Okay. Let's copy again and create other animations. I'm gonna scroll down. We have the hat here. Basically, I'm gonna change the color of this hat. It's gonna include all skin colors, so we don't need this fill anymore. Instead, I'm gonna write it here. I'll say fill. Inside the array, as I said, you can use multiple items. It doesn't have to be just 2. And I'm gonna add my skin colors. It's gonna take 6, infinity, linear, and reverse. Of course, we should use motion. And perfect. Let's do the same thing for the hands and legs. I will copy this. Left leg, right leg, and hands. Of course, don't forget writing motion. I will refresh, and as you can see, they are the same color. Okay, awesome. What's next? Okay, there is hair. Let's do the same thing, motion, and we are going to change the colors. Just like that. Okay. What else? We have the phone. Let's give our vibration effect motion.group. I'll paste my animation, and I'm gonna change my X position constantly. So let's say X is gonna start from 0, -5, 5, -5, 5, and again. I will do the same thing, just like that. And its duration will be really fast. Infinity, we don't need this. Ease will be ease in out. And after each animation, we are gonna wait 4 seconds. Repeat delay and 4. Okay, but this is moving also. It should be this one. Let's move this outside. And after 4 seconds, okay, awesome. What else? We have the text here, but I don't think we have an animation here. Okay, it's table. We can change this laptop. If you want to, you can give an animation for the leaf. You can move it or whatever you want. And for the laptop, we are going to use rotation. Let's say motion.g animate. We are going to be using rotate -5 to 0. And transition will be duration 2. Ease will be linear. Repeat. And repeat type. Just like that. Okay, that's all I think. Let's take care of the responsive design. As you can see, this is too small. Let's open our CSS. I'll say media query, maximum width. Let's start with the small one. Our main div will be vertical. Contact, flex direction will be column. And for each section, it was 50%, remember. This time it's going to be 100%. Just like that. If you want to, we can make this smaller and make here bigger. So I will say section and the first child, its height will be 70%. And the second child will be 30%. Just like that. It looks much better right now. And for the bigger screen, here, maybe we can decrease this number. Let's create one more. And since it's bigger, it should be on the top of this second one. I'll say 1024. The contact and the gap will be 30. And for the bigger screen, we are going to change our form size. Remember, it was 80% and it's going to be 100%. Okay, let's see the biggest screen and the smallest. Okay, it works. And our animation is here. Right now, we finished our project, but there is something important here. Since we are using heavy animations here, for the services section, we have 3D shapes, but we shouldn't load all our sections at once. For example, when we visit our website, we shouldn't import all our sections. We should import only this one. And only when we scroll down, we should import all these functions and components. In this case, our application will be much faster. To do that, I will close everything here, open my app.js, and I'm gonna import my components using lazy loading. But since we don't have any page, we should import them only when we scroll down. At the beginning, it's gonna be only hero section. When I scroll down, it's gonna import services. Scroll down, again, the next section, which is portfolio, and finally, the contact page. To do that, instead of importing our sections like that, we are going to be using dynamic import. So I will say const hero. We are going to be using lazy, that comes from React. And we are going to import our component. Let's copy this and paste. And let's do the same thing for the others. Services, portfolio, and the contact. Let's change them. Lowercase. Okay, right now we are gonna lazy load our components only when they are visible. To do that, we are gonna be using React lazy load library. Let's open our console. npm install React lazy load. Okay, let's import this. Import lazy load from React lazy load. Right now, I'm gonna wrap my sections with this component. Just like that. And we can give here height. Remember, each section is 100 VH. And also you can give here offset, let's say minus 100. So it's not gonna start immediately when we scroll down. Here, it's gonna start only after 100 pixels. It's just like margin in the useInView hook. And right now we can use Suspense block. Suspense, that comes from React. I'm gonna wrap my entire component and I will say fallback. And you can show here any loading indicator or progress bar, but I'm just gonna write loading. Let's do the same thing for the others. Just like that. Here is gonna be 600. And that's all, I think. Right now, when someone visits our website, it's gonna be much faster. What else you can do? You can decrease the image sizes. And don't forget, if you are adding 3D models, make sure that they are under 2 megabytes. If they are too heavy, your website will be much slower. But since we are using Suspense, the initial load time will be faster. So they are gonna see our content first and after 3D shapes. But anyway, if they are too heavy, it's gonna decrease the user experience. Okay, right now we finished our project. So we are ready to deploy our application. So let's close here, open my console, and close here, terminate this console. And right now we can build our application. And I will say npm run build. And it's ready. Of course, since we are using Three.js, some JavaScript chunks are larger than 500 kilobytes, but don't worry about that. Our website will be fast enough. I will open my menu, scroll up, and as you can see, our build folder is here. And it includes all our images, index.html, and all the styles and JavaScript files. So right now, I'm gonna select all my items here and move them into my hosting. Let's open our Hostinger panel. We have the file manager here. Let's open. And inside the public HTML folder, we are gonna upload our files. As you can see, this is the default file. Let's delete this. And I'm gonna drag and drop my files here. And it's ready. Let's see our website right now. I'm gonna open a new tab and write my domain. I will enter. And as you can see, it's really fast. All our items are here. Let's see the portfolio. Perfect. Okay, awesome. It works. And as you realize, our connection is secure because we are using a free SSL certificate. And it's that easy to deploy your applications using Hostinger panel. If you want to, you can create subdomains and deploy your portfolio projects in those subdomains. So when you click on any project here, you can use that subdomain. Okay, that's all guys. We finished our project. I hope you liked it. If you learned something new today, please like the video. Don't forget to follow Lama Dev social media accounts. I hope I'll see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.